back in this thing, light cook, cracking this thing with a beautiful Sunday, a beautiful message, and we got a great day coming ahead of us, man. We got a guest today, Chill from 16 to Life. OG is in the building. We're gonna allow him to kind of take over the floor today, as I will be co-pilot. We throwing the keys to OG, man. He gonna drive this plane today, man, and I'm outside with I'm hanging out the window with that thing on us. Don't worry about it, keeping it safe. Today we will be discussing the issues between blacks and browns, not only in the California Departments and Corrections and Rehabilitations, down to the county jails, down to the streets, man. Chill, what's up with you, brother? How you feeling, man?
Oh man, I'm doing good, homie. And first and foremost, I appreciate your message, and thank you for having me. And sorry about little technical difficulties, so on and so forth, man. But so like I was saying earlier, I was locked up. I did 24 years straight. I had a life sentence. I was sentenced to 16 years plus life initially. So I had 3 attempted murders. I took that to trial. Well, let me slow down. So I had 3 attempted murders. I got arrested for 3 attempted murders. Maybe about 4 or 5 months in to my arrest, they charged me with another murder. And so now I got 3 attempted murders and a trailing murder. I ended up going to trial on the 3 attempted murders. I was found guilty of great bodily injury and premeditated attempted murder. So I got 9 years plus life, not 9 years to life, but 9 years plus life, meaning that I had to do the 9 years first. Then after that, I would have to do the life sentence, which was back then 7 years. You had to bring 7 years on a straight life, and then you was eligible for parole. Now, keep in mind, I still have the trailing murder case. So I ended up taking the deal. They dropped the murder down to voluntary manslaughter. And what the DA was willing to do, he ran the 16 and the 9 together, but he ran it consecutive to the life sentence, which meaning basically instead of 9 plus life, I now had 16 plus life. So I had to do half of the 16, and then I would start on my life sentence. And so eventually I done 24 years. When I first went in, if you had life with the possibility of parole, you might as well have had life without the possibility of parole, because the way the board was set up, they were systematically denying any lifer pretty much that went to the board if you happen to go to the board for a murder. I think maybe in the first maybe 15, 16 years that I was in, maybe 7 or 8 people got released, out of thousands of lifers. So, of course, that put a lot of individuals in the mindset of, fuck it, I'm in prison, I'm going to rock out, it is what it is, I'm in these violent prisons. And, of course, a lot of motherfuckers is going to lose hope under those circumstances, because in order to get out of prison, you got to survive first. You got to, leaving prison in a box ain't going to help nobody. So a lot of people went balls in on, on the gang shit, drugs and whatever it was, And so eventually, by the grace of God, man, the parole board, all that stuff got kind of like changed around and fixed, like maybe started 2008, 2009, So now I'm starting to see these lifers who have been down 25, 30 years. Some of these lifers have even caught murders while being locked up in prison. Now these dudes are starting to go home. So, of course, I said, man, I need to get my shit together and start trying to go home my goddamn self. But it's crazy in that environment where you see dudes going home, you see dudes who've been locked up for years and years, and everybody is still not getting it together. You had some lifers in there still messing with cell phones, still messing with the drugs. I remember this one particular dude by the name of Pup. I guess he had 2 crimies, and they had been down 30 plus years. His crimies had went home about 6 or 7 years ago. He went to the parole board. They told him, hey man, bring us 3 years clean without no write-ups, so on and so forth. We're going to let you go. The man come back to the yard about 2 weeks later. He gets caught making Pruno, which is jailhouse wine. So, everybody don't get it for whatever reason, but for me, I said, man, shit, I'm trying to get up out of here. And so I also happen to rap, man. And so I know the name Chill was already taken by a couple of dudes. So initially I was going to go with, I think I was going to call myself G-Code or some shit like that. Then I got out. I looked up a couple of dudes that had it. So I just went with 16 to life. So I came to YouTube really accidentally. So like I said, I created my page to do some raps and stuff on there. So around COVID, I got out in 2018. So when COVID hit, the producer, the studio that I was going to, this dude, he was like, oh man, COVID's not real and all this old type of shit. About 2 or 3 weeks after we had that conversation, his ass was sitting up in the hospital on his deathbed damn near. He stayed in hospital for about a month. Damn. And so when he does that, around that time, I got about 200 subscribers. So my initial goal was only to get to 400 subscribers. So I tell myself, okay, what can I do to keep some traffic sliding through my page until this dude get out of COVID or whatever. So by that time I'd probably been out maybe about a year, and I'm noticing how every time I tell a person, when I go to the DMV or whatever, because people got to keep in mind, man, I went to jail in 1994. There was no YouTube. There was none of this shit. I had a cell phone, but it was the brick. The cell phone didn't have no social media capabilities.
You was playing Snake and Tetris on that motherfucker, huh?
That one, and I had the one that you plug into the lighter. It was in a little bag, and you plug into the lighter. So the only thing, only purpose that thing was good for was calling, and then your bill gonna be shit. Your bill liable to be $1,400-$1,500. You trying to floss on that motherfucker back then, your bill gonna be high as a motherfucker. So when I get out, all this shit is foreign to me, man. All this, these cell phones. Well, we had some cell phones up in prison, but all this technology and all this stuff it's foreign to me, man. I'm walking through Walmart, motherfuckers is talking on their Bluetooth every time they talking. I'm turning around thinking they talking to me and all this old type of shit. So long story short, long story short, I started telling prison stories because I noticed when I would go to the DMV or something, and I would tell the person, hey, man, I don't know nothing about nothing, man. They would be intrigued by the fact that I had been in jail for 24 years. And so I started telling prison stories with the hopes of just creating a little traffic on my page, man. And maybe after about a month of telling prison stories, I looked up one day, and one of the stories that I had told had about 7,000 or 8,000 views. And I thought it was the story from the day before, but I still couldn't believe it. But now as I'm looking at it and, checking on it every 10, 15 minutes, the number is going higher and higher. Then I realized, damn, this is the story that I told today. And ever since then, I just happen to be blessed, man. And, my page has took off and done a little better. And, I mean, honestly, myself, I was surprised. I think nobody, man. And I think Rich Trapper can kind of agree to this. When we start doing YouTube, we really have no idea and really have no idea of how successful our pages can get. So once it does get a little successful, it's a bit humbling. Though I've seen a lot of motherfuckers get arrogant, man. A lot of these niggas get 10,000 views and they get beside themselves, man. It is what it is, man. This shit ain't, only thing this shit has did is gave motherfuckers more access to go upside my head if they want to do something to me. I mean, the money is all right, but I mean, it's not, you have some YouTubers making life-changing money, but the little bread I'm getting from this shit, I ain't got to go to work, but still and all, it's not all that. So, basically, man, for you arrogant YouTubers, stay in your place, man. This shit, it is what it is.
And you know what? I want to say this too before we jump into the subjects. A lot of people think that, oh man, you making so much. I be trying to tell them like 1,000 views on YouTube is only like $10. You got to have a gang of videos going at once to accumulate. But 1,000 on one video ain't finna pay you, bro. You got to really have a lot of volume in these YouTube streets, video on top of video on top of video. If you really want, so like you said, not even life-changing money, just money to get you from A to B.
And I think it all depends on your RPM, because mine is a little different. Like on 1,000 views, I'll get anywhere from about $150 to maybe $200. So it just depends on your RPM. But I don't necessarily understand what makes that fluctuate. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. I think now initially when you first start out, you have a lower RPM, which is, I think it's like what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a French word, but it's a Latin word for rules per mile. And so basically that's how much you get paid for, like he said, 1,000 views. And now it's something called a CPM. I'm gonna give y'all a little YouTube game. The CPM is basically what the company, we get paid by the videos that they put on our channel. So let's just say Coke tells YouTube, hey man, I'm gonna pay you guys $20 per every 1,000 views that Rich Trapper get. Now, of course, YouTube, they gonna take their cut and they say, okay, we gonna take our cut and we gonna give Rich Trapper $12 for every 1,000 views. So then, of course, simple math, he gets $120 a video. But some people's RPMs are a little higher, some people's RPMs are a little lower. So it just all depends.
Okay. So good game. And then you got to keep in mind too, man, my channel got 25,000. I think my man, Chill, how much you got? You got that plaque yet? I know you close to it if you ain't got it.
No, I got like 72,000. But see, a lot of people want to equate subscribers with bread, and that's not always the case. You know, my first YouTube check was $4,000. My first YouTube check was maybe about $80-$90 away from $4,000. So you don't have to have a lot of subscribers to get bread. You just have to have the views. And so I had no idea YouTube was even paying like that. I remember I got a homie named David Williams. He told me, hey, chill, man, you keep going and you can get monetized. Now, this was when I had about 400 or 500 views. I said, oh, man, I ain't never going to get 1,000 subscribers. I'm not even thinking that I could get to 1,000 subscribers. So I continue telling the stories. And keep in mind, luckily for me, this was right around the time COVID was taking off. It wasn't a whole lot of black YouTubers back then, as far as from California doing prison stories or urban type shit or whatever, right? So I happened to just get in at a good time, man. I think it was another brother before me, Dirty Weather 916 from Sacramento. He was doing it, but you know, all my shit that I done, it wasn't planned. It was just some luck, you know, the grace of God or whatever cats want to say, man. Just everything fell into the right places at the right time, and so I kept telling the prison stories, and I was like at 3,000, 4,000 subscribers. And then I told myself, I said, well, fuck it. You know, I'm on here telling these stories. I might as well get monetized. So of course, I didn't know how to go through that procedure. Just so happened it was a dude who was shooting my videos, this white dude, and he had a YouTube page. So I got at him and he helped me. He helped me and got me only so far. And then the producer who I was talking about, who got sick, he ended up helping me go the rest of the way. So then once I finally get monetized, my money is jumping every day, $200. And back then the system was a little bit different in terms of how it's set up now. You know, every 7 or 8 months they'll renovate the system and do all this and do that. But you know, basically they show you in real time how much money you getting paid. And so, you know, the first day was like 200, the next day just jumping and jumping and jumping and jumping. And so yeah, my first check was like 39 something, almost 4,000. So you don't necessarily have to have a bunch of subscribers in order to get paid. You just have to have the views. You know, you can get monetized 1,000 and say do a story on whatever the latest topic is. And in the event that story happens to go viral, and you know a lot of people view your channel on that particular video, then you're gonna get bread. So it's not necessarily about the subscribers.
So you know what? Since we're talking about what's going on in the world, that brings us to today's topic. What brought us here is Tory Lanez being stabbed by a Mexican in the CDCR. For those of y'all who don't know, Tory Lanez is on a 50-50 yard, and Chill will give more insight. You know what I'm saying? Chill, I love you to death, bro, but I was a better criminal than y'all. I ain't never hit the pen. I got away. But Chill got more insight and got more understanding. To my understanding, a 50-50 yard is you have half general population, you have half protective custody. As far as us being black men, we can go to any yard we want to go to. Can't nobody tell us where we can and where we can't go. The rules for the Mexicans are different. However, to my understanding, the rules are only different for the Mexicans until somebody from high power then comes down to the yard and says, you know what? I actually like it here. Now it's a good yard. Chill, the floor is yours.
And I definitely have seen that before, right? But now I left in 2018 before the 50-50 yards was implemented. They was passing out information that they was going to be starting, but they didn't start until after I left. And so from what I'm hearing from the brothers on the level 4 and stuff like that, even the blacks, if you on a 50-50 yard on a level 2 or a level 3 and you come to a level 4 from a 50-50 yard, you will be ran off that yard, you know. So a lot of times, damn, man, my shit just went down. A lot of time, hold on. What the fuck? I unplugged it. Shit. Give me 1 second. I gotta just plug this up right here.
So y'all, real quick, man, Chill's gonna break down to us exactly what the yard is that Tory Lanez is on. You feel me? And then after breaking down to us exactly what the yard is that Tory Lanez is on, we're going to get to this actual stabbing. And after we get to the actual stabbing, I want to talk to him about the politics between blacks and browns and the racist aspect before of. Go ahead, Chill. The floor is yours, OG.
Okay, and so a lot of times I realize in doing YouTube, man, there's a lot of false information at times being put out there about the blacks. You know, one thing about the blacks is we are in prison. We're very fractured. Why we don't have enough sense to come together as one, I really don't understand. You know, I mean, I ain't never been a hater, and you gotta give any group, the Southerners, the Northerners, whoever, the whites, even the others, which is normally, you know, made up of the Asians, the Pacific Islanders, stuff like that. You got to give them their props in realizing that prison is about the unity of a race, you know. And so, brothers, homie, we're so divided. So a lot of times when a riot jump off, we are fighting on the defense because we're not together and we're not united. And that's something that's extremely detrimental to surviving in prison, winning a riot, so on and so forth, right? So you got to give props to the Southerners and all those other groups who realize the bigger picture, because people, a lot of times people from California don't know that on the streets, the Southerners beef with each other heavy. They go at each other hard and get
just
cracking
like
on each
Bloods
other
and
heavy.
Crips
But
and
when
Crips
they
and
come to
Crips.
prison, when they come to prison, they have enough sense to realize, okay, we're going to put the street beefs to the side, right? And so due to the brothers being a lot of fractured, you have some specific cars and groups and Crips and Bloods who check some paperwork, and you have others who don't. But they try to make it seem like all the blacks don't check paperwork, all the blacks we allow anything, and that's just not the case, man. You have a lot of those dudes on the level 4s who are not letting dudes from the 50-50 yards come to those level 4s. So now with that being said, a 50-50 yard is like Rich Trapper said, man. You have, so it turned out at one point in time in the California Department of Corrections system, they had so many SNY yards, which is a sensitive needs yard or a PC, pretty much the same thing. There was those yards got so big and so wild, they said, well, fuck it. You know, we just to put everybody back on the main line. There is no need for these 50-50 yard, these protective custody. I mean, there's no need for these SNY and protective custody yards if they're going to have the same violence and the same stuff going on the regular yards. You know, when I first went to prison, when you heard protective custody, you had, you know, people would get the feeling that these dudes who went to these yards was rapists, child molesters, and they was going over there to these yards to kick back, relax, and do their time because they couldn't do time on the main line. At some point, gangs started forming on these SNY yards, which they started calling them later on sensitive needs yards. And so some of those yards got just as hectic or even worse than the main line, because now you still have these gang members. They haven't changed their mentality. They just went on these SNY yards. And so they started forming gangs. And all these dudes you have more dudes on the SNY yard who are not, they're not over there for, you know, they're not, all of them aren't rapists, baby killers, child molesters. A lot of these dudes are just dudes who have run afoul with the structure of their car. You know, some dudes might have drug debts. Some dudes might, you know, ran up a gambling debt. Some dudes maybe was scared to hold a knife. Whatever it is, you know, all these dudes are not child molesters. So I say that to say these dudes still go over there with the same gang type of attitude, characteristics, and lifestyle. So now it's worse because there's less structure. So to my understanding, man, the dude who stabbed Tory Lanez, he had been in a relationship with a 13-year-old girl. You know, I read the paperwork, research. He got into an argument with her and he killed her. And so that's why he was on the SNY yard. But now peep this, right? And you know, you can't believe everything you see on YouTube, but a dude commented on one of the videos that I did, and he said that he was on the main line. He said, what was it? I think it was CR 2000. I think 2000. What did he say? 2022 or something. What prison? I forget the prison, but he programmed with the whites, and he said he specifically remembers that dude because he used to do a lot of business with that dude, him and his celly. So, you know, that's just a comment on YouTube. I don't know how true it is. I wasn't able to, you know, to fact check and see if what he was saying was true. But the words that he left in the comments sounded like he at least knew what he was talking about in terms of that prison. But there's always different trolls and stuff. But I didn't take his comment as he was trolling. So, but anyway, basically, you have gangs on these SNY yards, right? And so I made a video the other day, and I was saying that the blacks need to take back off on the Mexicans, right? And not because they were Mexicans. A lot of times people trip me out. They'll watch these prison YouTube channels and they'll get in their feelings depending on when they hear a story, and due to whatever race they happen to be in, sometimes these people to get offensive, they take sides or whatever. Prison is a whole different element than regular life. You cannot let anybody who is not in your collective attack you, whether they're black, whether they're Mexican, whether they're white, it even if they are the same race, which is why you see so much black on black violence in prison. Anybody that's not in your collective cannot put their hands on your homeboy. And that's what it is. So I'm not saying the blacks should take off on the Mexicans because they're Mexican, because you had a Mexican dude transgress on a black dude. And when you don't start to take off and respond with violence, people get, like my boy Chance to say, they get epiphanies. They get ideas. Now they start feeling that we can push up on this collective and we can do as we please. Regardless of whatever they claim Tory did or didn't do, the proper protocol was to go get at the blacks and say, hey man, this is what happened. Then they would go talk to Tory. They would get both sides of the story, and they would figure out who, if anyone, was wrong. But when you allow individuals to arbitrarily hit the yard and start making decisions, oh, we gonna poke Rich Trapper because we don't like how he walked today. We gonna poke Rich Trapper because we don't like he was taking too long walking to the chow hall. He's slamming his door too loud or whatever, and you don't respond. That's when you start getting pressed upon. Prison is a different beast, man. So I'm saying to dudes, don't get in your feelings about this prison shit, man. Prison is how prison is. And so when you in that environment, you have to live what's best for you in that environment, or you're gonna find yourself being infringed upon often.
So I want to bring this up as well too. You said a lot of good things. First off, I want to take it back a little bit. I always tell people this. You can say somebody's in PC. You can say somebody's in the old man dorm, the psych ward, whatever. He's still in jail. He still did something to get there. Regardless of whatever, he still did something to warrant his trip to wherever he's at. So that individual, no matter where they are, should be taken extremely serious, because I'm sure you've seen the most meek individuals jump up and get cracking on what was perceived the most tough individuals.
Man, I told a story like that, man, where it was a dude by the name of Josh, and we was in the peel line, and he was being pressed by some, and I forget the other dude's names, but tough-looking white guy. Josh was a non-assuming looking motherfucker. He had glasses on, looking square. The other dude was, white dude, bald head, tattoos all over the place. Basically, Josh had lent this dude some money, and the dude promised he'd get the money back. And Josh is saying, come on, man, you promised me you get that money back. The dude is like, man, fuck you. I don't got it. I'll give it to you when I'll give it to you when I got it, and so on and so forth. And when he fucked around and he called Josh a piece of shit, which is basically, it's like a snitch or a trash word that the whites use, and they take very, it's very offensive to them. Basically, you calling them no good. The boy Josh went bananas and ended up, Psycho, that was the dude's name, ended up beating the shit out of Psycho. So like Rich Trapper is saying, man, being in prison is the wrong place to try to judge a book by its cover, because at the end of the day, violence is what is respected in prison, man. And so, when all else fails and motherfucker don't get your message, you got to go upside that head.
So with that being said, to my understanding, and again, I've never been to anyone's state penitentiary. What I was informed of, I've been to LA County, I've been to Riverside County, Robert Presley, Southwest, Wayside, the Towers, all that. What I was told by some dudes when I went to LA County the first time, they was like, if you could do the LA County jail, you could do any penitentiary. If you can maintain within
That's what I've heard.
Because you from Banning, from Riverside County, and you've been on these yards. I've only heard, again, I've never been there, but I was always told when the LA County bus pull up to the yard, everybody just be like, here this shit go again. Here these niggas come. Because the LA dudes is always coming with chaos, basically. But it's like you said, it's not because of anything outside of our politics. So when it goes into the blacks retaliating to the situation with Tory Lanez, it could have been the others, it could have been the whites, it could have been whomever. The fact is, if someone attacks your faction, that does presume weakness, because we're in a place where only violence is understood. So with that also being said, to put it to my fan base and to my viewership, the blacks going at the Mexicans in this situation is no different than P4 from BPS jumping out on 4 extras from 40 Crip. It's the same concept. It's the same concept.
Pretty much.
It's no different than Munchie B having a problem because he's from Inglewood family with the 6 O's. It's no different than the East Coast Crips having an issue with whoever they get. We could go back and forth on black gangs all day. So let's take away the fact that for this part of the conversation, let's take away the fact that, oh, it's because they're Mexican. No, they just happen to be Mexican. If the whites would have did the same thing, they should play ball on the whites the exact same way. So, you know, when we're looking at it, it's and I'm gonna call a spade, uncomfortable moment. From what I'm viewing and from my words and from my perception, it is the Mexican YouTubers who have this public, I'm gonna say, safe space and safe way of protecting their people under any circumstances, even if they're as wrong as 2 left feet. What's your opinions on that?
Excuse me. Most of the time, right? Most of the time, man, when that situation was going on with Whack 100 and Blue Devil, I seen a Mexican YouTuber. Then you had some other dudes, you know, stand up to Whack or whatever. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken,
I tripped on Whack.
I believe it was Gunner from Gunner's Collective, right? And then you had another dude from down south say, "Hey, man, you know, basically that he appreciated Gunner," and I'm paraphrasing here because I don't remember what he exactly said, but he said he appreciated Gunner for, you know, standing up to Whack, which is they got into an argument over the phone, and even though he knew Gunner was a dropout, or you know, or at least Gunner was not welcome among his people, he would ride with him in that sense than to, you know, let a black disrespect a Mexican. And so, you know, basically he was saying that he would ride with a dude who was no good
before he let a black disrespect him.
Right. Over the I can only say it like this, over his hatred for black people, right? That's how it appeared to me. And, you know, that's the sad thing about this situation, man, that, you know, sometimes people want to make this shit about race when it's not about race. Sometimes it's just about 2 individuals who get into it, who happen to be of different races, man. And, you know, I get it, because we all have a strong connection to our people, especially us as minorities, you know, Mexicans and blacks. You know, when you grow up, man, especially us older dudes, you know, when we grew up, you know, you walk into the store, you being watched. I mean, it was just, for a white person, you can't even fathom the type of racism and you know, weekly, sometimes daily bullshit that we go through. So I get it, you know, that causes all minorities
me real quick. Somebody want to say what's up.
How you play Mark, Daddy?
Say what's up, Chill.
What's up, Chill? How you play Mark?
Mario, boy.
Oh.
Hi, how you doing?
Say what's up.
What's up?
That's 16 in life. Remember we listened to him in the car? 90% of dudes rapping ain't as nice as me. Yeah. Now you being shy? See you later. Go play. You haven't grown up time. Love you, Papa.
Let's go play Mario.
Okay, go make your brothers play with you. My bad. That's a little homie. He don't give. Look, when I say he don't give a fuck about none of this YouTube shit, hey, I got a question. But go ahead. I'm sorry, Chill. Go ahead.
So, you know, I was just saying that, you know, being from a certain generation, born in the 70s, growing up under a certain type of upbringing, I understand, you know, we all have a strong connection and a bond to our people. I remember being about 6 or 7 years old, sitting in the living room with my uncle, and there was a black dude boxing, and I don't know if he was boxing a Puerto Rican or a white dude, but I remember my uncle telling me, we always root for the black people. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, I get it. You know, I get it, homie. Everybody has a connection to their people, right? And everybody wants to root for their people and you know, take the side of their people. But sometimes I just feel that at some point, you know, we all should reach a certain level of maturation, man, where we don't necessarily have to insert race into everything, you know. And like I said earlier, and I'll say it again, it really trips me out when you may tell a prison story that was 20, 25 years old, and people still get in their feelings due to they are associated with the particular person in the story who happened to get the short end of the stick that day.
And then you know what? And then kind of taking it to that, again, going from my own experiences, I'm 35. I'm sure you're aware of the Cinco de Mayo incident with the white T-shirts in 2025. I'm sorry, 2005, where every black person who wore a white T-shirt.
I don't recall hearing about that. You know, you got to keep in mind in 2005,
Yeah, I know you was up there.
I was locked up, so we're not necessarily getting all the news and stuff that you guys are getting on the street.
So if you and then anybody in the chat who's from LA County, Southern California, y'all feel free. 2005, I was in the 10th grade, and it was well known throughout the city of Los Angeles, LA County. If you was a black person wearing a white T-shirt, the Mexicans was gonna jump out on you on that day. You feel me? And that's actually how when me and my friends, shout out to my homie King Calidro from Long Beach, that's how me and him actually became best friends. I was at the bus stop. I was at a new school. I actually went to Gar High School in Cerritos. So I was at the bus stop, and I'm coming from LA, and some Mexicans jumped out on me, little bats. Remember the little small Dodger baseball bats you get from the baseball games? They had those,
right,
those and some mace. So I jump out, we squabbling, blah blah, and this random black kid come running across the street, and he jump in and he helped me fight. You know what I'm saying? And we do what we got to do. I'm lying. Somebody else, I'm lying like a motherfucker. And I'm going to say his name because I don't give a damn. It was this kid named Mario Williamson. He was getting beat up by the Mexicans, and I jumped in to help this nigga. His ass take off running and leave me to get my ass whooped by myself. And then my homie Fred came in and jumped in to help me. And that's how he and I became friends. But that whole thing was based upon, and I'm not old enough, at that moment to really know why, and only rumors will tell you. But for whatever reason, there was a green light on the blacks. Obviously, that comes from up top, and that's what the situation was. And I always try to explain from my generation and then being incarcerated and seeing these situations, blacks are more than willing to admit, yeah, the Mexicans do have a racism towards us. But unfortunately, a lot of our Mexican counterparts will be like, well, no, it's not like that because of this or because of that or because of this. But I could take you to another example, and I'm going to pass the floor back to you. I've seen this in the Los Angeles County jail system. We East Max, I think it's like 8-man showers, however man showers it is. And, it's everybody's after rec. And, you want to get clean. We up there in the mountains in the summertime. We hot. You feel me? Sweating. You stink. You can't be a dirtbag and get on your bed dirty. The Mexican dude comes in. And I remember one of the older black dudes telling them, we not tripping if you get in the shower, but your people going to fuck you up. We not tripping. We don't care. But they going to fuck you up. Right. And I remember hearing another time where a Mexican dude, same jail. You know what I'm saying? Just kind of like different scenarios. A Mexican dude was hungry, and then I remember seeing a black dude have to like walk past his bed and then just drop like a noodle on it and keep pushing, because if they would have seen the black dude feed him, they would have beat his ass. But they wasn't trying to feed this nigga. So, in my opinion, it don't be the blacks tripping; it be them tripping on us, and we just respond with hostility and go for our big one.
Well, I gotta keep it 100, Rich, and the racism is on both sides, man, due to individuals who have had negative experiences with other individuals from the race. I ran across some black dudes who don't like Mexicans just as much as Mexicans don't like blacks, and it just all depends, because you have some hoods out there on the street. Some hoods may they may have interracial beefs. You have some hoods who may beef more with Mexicans than they beef with blacks, and vice versa, right? So sometimes it's just up to the individual. Then it's also, like you said earlier, blacks don't be tripping on a black doing business with a Mexican, or a black giving a Mexican a soup, or so on and so forth. Overall, you'll have some blacks, maybe it's like, oh man, why did he get a soup from that Mexican dude or whatever? But there is no blanket policy about what we can and what we can't do with the Mexicans, as far as opposed, they can't do certain stuff with us, But now, I think it was a text, or somebody was telling me that now in certain prisons, blacks or county jails, they're playing basketball and cards together and all that old type of stuff.
Okay.
But even when they was, excuse me?
No, I'm saying, yeah, okay, that's dope. I never heard of that.
And even matter of fact, my homie who just got out maybe about a year or so ago, he told me in the San Bernardino County Jail, yeah, they was in there, he told me that blacks and Mexicans was catching one-on-one fades in the county jail and they was playing cards together and all that stuff too. So my homie also told me that. But even when there was a blanket policy for Southern Mexicans not to do any type of business or take any type of food from Mexicans, you had many Mexicans who still would do it. All Mexicans are not racist, right? It's just that if they did not adhere to that certain policy, then of course they faced potentially being violently harmed, right? There was a dude who left a comment in my comment section maybe about 5 or 6 months ago. He said that, man, due to a enormous drug habit that he had, he used to buy. So sometimes in jail they give you these pills, different type of pills. I never took any, but they give you these different type of pills, and you can, people would bring the pills back and sell them on the yard. But now some of these pills you have to take right in front of the nurse. Some of these pills are KOP, which means carry on person. But some of these other pills that'll get you extremely high, the nurse has to see you take the pill just for that reason. So some of the dudes will put the pill under their tongue, act like they swallowed the pill, and then bring the pill back to the yard and sell the pill. Now, this Mexican dude in the comments, he admitted to buying these pills from blacks. He said, man, because my habit was so strong, he said, man, had I got caught buying some pills from a black dude, especially that had been in his mouth, they would have been too through with that dude. They probably would have tried to kill that dude. So, all Mexicans who adhered to that policy was not necessarily racist, man. In prison, they just have to do it because that's the way they function. I remember a dude, I was in prison, I used to sell weed in Ironwood State Prison. I had a lot of Mexican customers. Of course, they couldn't bring the bag right to my cell and drop it off. They'd be like, hey, chill, listen, man, so I would give it to them. They'd go to the store, maybe for $20, $30 worth of weed, whatever it was. I'd slide them a store list. They'd go to the store and get the things that I wanted. Then maybe they'd give it to an Asian dude or to bring. Or, one dude told me, hey, chill, listen, man, I'll drop that off when my people ain't looking. I'll walk past here and drop the bag off. So it's not as segregated as people make it seem. And then I've ran across Mexicans who are racist. You know what I'm saying? I remember one time I was on a level 2. A Mexican dude, he was tripping because this is dorm living. And the black dude had his arm. Rich Trapper, you know how the dorms is. Yep. One space is your driveway. The other walk-in space is your neighbor's driveway.
Was it 2-man bunks or 3-man bunks?
Right. And so one black dude would sleep, and when he would sleep, his arm is just hanging off the side of the bed, but it was in the Mexican area, and the Mexican was upset about that. He was trying to press an issue. So come on, man, this dude is asleep. If his arm is hanging on your side of the bed, that's really nothing to try to press an issue. And so it took me that he did not like black. So it's more, you have those type of feelings on both sides, man. It's just that in prison, the blacks, we are not, like I said, we don't have a blanket policy that dictates what we can or what we can do with any other race.
And then, so I want to kind of make a transition into the next topic. Because the blacks, as far as prison is concerned, don't really have a blanket policy of what is and what isn't. It's kind of like you said, your hood to dictate what you got going on for the most part. You feel me? And even if it comes down to whether it's your religion or, even I'm sure the non-affiliates got whatever they got going on, there's a structure for everything. Why do you think that in our space, when we talk about things, the politics of the penitentiary becomes so heavy in a YouTube space?
That's a good question right there, Rich Trapper. And I think once again, it's because racial pride, because, man, I ain't seen one motherfucker volunteer to go back to prison and handle no racial shit. So, it's just about having a certain, feeling of racial pride, that makes people want to, be overly concerned with shit that they shouldn't be. The same way, Rich, check it out. The same way, man, you have motherfucking football fans fighting and stabbing each other.
Right.
Sometimes for whatever reason, we insanely make a connection to something, and we become too attached to that shit. I mean, you know, when you got LA Raiders fans willing to fight and stab Kansas City Chief fans or whoever, you know, the LA Dodger fans willing to fight and stab, you know, San Francisco 49ers over some baseball, that shit is crazy.
And you know, I'll look at it like this. Not to with this one, I'm gonna make very broad because I do want to go. Hold on one second, boys. Come on, bro. Thank you. I said, turn it down, little homie.
Okay.
Thank you. Go sit down somewhere. Or go play
Hey,
outside,
man, look,
bro.
real quick, Rich, real quick, man. I definitely just want to give you props, man, on being a father, raising your children. That's very commendable, man. And that's what we need, man. That's what we need in these days. You know, we don't need homies, next door neighbors, and shit like that to raise our children. We need to raise our children because while the next door neighbor may look out for your son, if your son trying to cross the street on a bike or this and that, he's not necessarily guaranteed to instill in him lifelong lessons that he needs and things that's going to keep him on the right path, man. Ain't nobody going to love your seeds like you going to love them, homie. So that's extremely commendable, man.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And a lot of people, when I first started doing this YouTube thing, they was like, oh, he always talking to his kids. I think that it's important, especially in the messy ass genre that I'm in. See something positive. See a black man day to day taking care of his kids. You might not like my content. You might not like how I speak. You might not like my subject matter, but you're going to respect the type of father that I am. Period. And that's it and that's all.
Most definitely.
Because what we both know by now is, as I'm sure I could say the same thing as you could say, the people could talk crazy in the comments. Ain't nobody walked up to you and punched you in your mouth for nothing you said on YouTube yet. But the kids is what's real. Right. You feel me? So I try to make sure that that's always on the forefront of seeing like, nah, man, make sure we fucking with these kids.
Real talk.
But I want to say this in a broad aspect before I get into a very specific question. I feel like watching it from the outside looking in, because again, with doing my type of content, I see everything. I talk about everything. It's the news. You feel me? It's everything that we got going on YouTube. From how it appears, I do not believe that every Mexican YouTuber or every Sereno or Norteño, whatever going on, YouTuber is racist. I don't believe that, not even a little bit. What I do believe is they all believe in one thing. The structure of what the dudes up top say, nobody really wants to rattle that cage. And I'll just use the word respect. Out of respect of a consequence of what could come down. And as us being black and not having that, I guess for lack of better words, eye in the sky, it does make it hard to receive certain ways of information being put when we know that that's not what it is. And then it comes across as now we're combating or it's a racial thing, but it's like, no, we're able to speak on the totality of the situation where for whatever reason, our counterparts aren't. So only a half truth is being spilled. And I don't even say a half truth because it's telling a lie, but anytime you don't tell a whole story, that is a half truth. You feel me? What are your thoughts on that?
Right. Well,
and that's on a YouTube level, not even on a jail level.
Say that again?
I said that's on a YouTube level, not even on a jail level.
Right. Well, no, I definitely agree with that. Right. Of course, you know, and I'll sum it up like this, right? I've seen people of all races doing things on a level 2 that they wouldn't do on a level 4, right? So,
like what?
Being out of line, being disrespectful, gambling debts, you know, anything in prison that can get your head knocked off, right? So then you saw some dudes on a level 4, and then later on you will see them on a level 2, and they kept the same program, right? So I say that to say for those who did not keep the same program, it wasn't in them. The fear kept them in line.
Okay.
The fear, knowing that a motherfucker would knock your head off, right, on a level 4. Man, listen, I saw a brother, right, get down to a level 2, and we're in the black day room. This dude has been in the building so long, he's taking the remote control, he's taking it and putting it in his pocket at night. Then this nigga will go to sleep.
Wait, hold on, the day room TV remote?
Yeah, this nigga will go to sleep around 2 or he'll go to sleep around 3 or 4 in the morning, and and then sleep to like about 12 or 1. And dudes is in brothers is in the, and now this happened to be a reception building, meaning that a lot of dudes would just, when they came to this pen, you come to this building just to get housed and sent somewhere else. They had a few regulars in there, but not a whole lot. So he got to the point where he felt that was his shit, right? And I knew him from Salinas. I said, homie, we not this to do this. Give me that motherfucking remote control. You know what I'm saying, homie? You know you wouldn't do this on no level 4. This is the black TV room. You know what I'm saying? You got the remote control in your pocket. So, you know, but on a level 4, due to all the killers and shit that would be there, and they wouldn't go for it, he wouldn't even try it. So I say that to say, in regards to your other question, sometimes fear or potentially what can happen will keep a dude in line.
Well, that explains that right there. And again, that's just the difference in the politics between the two races, because you know, to call a spade, I'm not going to ever say that the blacks can do what they want, but as long as you're not dirty, you're not disrespecting your homies or really turning down no phase if you are gangbanging, and you're not disrupting the overall program, don't nobody give a fuck about what you do. That's your business.
Right.
Taking it into a new situation, I'm watching Gunners Collective, I'm watching Dubs, I'm watching that whole situation. What started that situation, and what started the situation, and where are you guys at now? And I understand that it's kind of like rooted in the Tory Lanez, you know, back and forth, but I feel like you guys have kind of had a discourse prior to this. Am I tripping?
No, you know, you're right. And I
Okay.
get asked that question so much that I was already thinking about doing a video on that, right? Because a lot of people will say, hey, chill, man, what happened? We used to see Dubs, you know, shout you out all the time and this and that, man. And quite frankly, man, in my opinion, and a lot of other Mexican YouTubers, because I've seen it, Dubs has got a little arrogant, right? And to me, it's crazy for an individual to want to sit up and make videos about everybody. And then he makes videos about Wes Watson. He speaks on Big U, Brick Baby, Loose Cannon, Lefty Gunplay, Rowdy Racks. You know, he does his YouTube thing. You know, he's trying to get his bread with these YouTube videos, right? And so, but you make a video about him, and he gets in his feelings, right? And so, no, our thing kind of went back further than the Tory thing Lanez did. So he done a video, right? And another thing about Dubs will stick to prison politics when it
benefits him.
At other times, he'll go outside of that prison politics, what you can and you can't do. And when I say prison politics, I'm talking about especially in terms of another race. You know, sometimes he'll stick to it. Then at other times he'll go out and he'll go outside of that and does as he pleases, right? And so he had made a video one time about a black dude saying that the blacks were afraid of Mexicans, but the black dude said that in relation to doing federal time, right?
I remember that video. He wasn't even from California. Neither
one of us has done any federal time, right? And so I didn't understand then, and I still don't understand now, why would you put that video out there? Why? So basically, Dubs was trying to basically say that the Mexicans are superior to the blacks without having to say it. I'm going to put up a video of a black dude saying it. You know what I'm saying? Then in my video, I'll make it seem like, no, blacks aren't afraid of Mexicans. Well, what's the whole purpose of putting that video up? That would be like somebody talking negative about, you would have a Mexican talking negative about other Mexicans, and I put that video up to highlight it. You know, what's the purpose? That's really not my business. You know what I'm saying? So Dubs just happens to be a person, and in my opinion, he's extremely biased, to say the least, whether he's talking about blacks versus the Mexicans, or he's talking about the South Side versus the North. He's just biased, right? And so I think that's a character flaw that he has that he doesn't realize, but a lot of people see it, right? And so when he put that video up, I disagreed with that video, right? Now, before then, I had spoke to him a time or two. You know, he had reached out. I first became aware of Dubs by him doing reactions videos to my videos, right? And so now it's funny to me how Dubs was like to say, "Oh man, people just mentioned my name and they, they use my picture in the thumbnails to get some attention." Where he has a million videos of other people, like I say, I ran across him because he had reacted to one of my videos, and so of course he has me on the thumbnail. So um, basically he just got butthurt when I did my video about disagreeing with him. Of course, I don't get disrespectful. I don't do all the woofing and stuff. So the video wasn't a disrespectful video. It was just me having an opposite opinion of what you said. I'm sure if I put something out there about a blanket statement about the Mexicans that he disagreed with, of course he's going to do a video, right? So to me, how can you be in a YouTube space, but you can't handle a person making a video about you, especially when you make videos on other people? That was, and this is a little off track, right? But that was how I was able to deal with my time doing prison, because it comes with the life. How can I be running around here popping this pistol on motherfuckers and doing this and doing that, and then when I get cracked, I can't handle it? To me, that was just insane. That's just like, homie, you'll have dudes who be cheating on their broad. Then they catch their broad cheating and they want to beat her ass and all that. Come on, man. That comes with the game. Now, if you be in a square and you know what I'm saying, you one of them, you one of them Jimmy Valentine niggas, and you buying her presents and you being, you ain't cheated on the broad and all that, then she cheat on you. Okay, get upset, get in your feelings. But if you running around cheating on this broad and she cheat on you, nigga, either you like it or you push on. I don't understand how niggas want to beat the broad up when she doing the same thing that you doing.
Yeah, that's real talk. That's real talk. And keeping it focused on Dubs, because I do want to ask you about Gunner as well, but keeping it on Dubs for right now. What I've noticed specifically is Dubs will speak on any. You know what? I'm not even gonna just say just Dubs. I will put this on a lot of the Mexican YouTubers. If it's something going on in the black community, and I use the black community because if it's on YouTube, it's a billion people watching YouTube. We all got the same YouTube.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Whether it's in Thailand or shit, unless you're in China or Korea, they got a whole different YouTube, but that's something different. But overall, we all got this same YouTube, so everybody gonna see the same thing. So I don't think that there is a black, white, Mexican prison. It's all YouTube. You know what I'm saying? So we put up these invisible barriers and boundaries, but when it's something going on in the black YouTube world, I guess, for lack of, whatever, everybody speak on it.
Right.
Brick Baby crashing out on No Jumper, everybody will speak on it. Flakko saying something stupid, everybody will speak on it. Faux extras everybody know off the back. Everybody speak on off the back. X4, whatever the case may be, Whack 100, even though he's a cornball, whatever the case is, everybody is going to speak on it regardless of it. So why do you feel like, and I don't mean you specifically, but when it comes to the Mexican YouTubers, it's amazing to me that it's like this feeling of, well, we can say whatever we want about what you guys have going on, but if you do want to speak on what we have going on, it needs to be tiptoed around or handled with care or handled with kids' gloves, and you can't speak about it to the same capacity that, number one, you speak about your own people, but even number two, how we speak about your people. Because if we're going on prison rules, if that's the case, if you're not black, you shouldn't be speaking on nothing going on with the blacks.
Right. And that's a great point right there, man. And I'll say this, right, and we're gonna keep it on Dubs, but I'll say this, man. Pretty much from the time blacks were released from slavery, man, we have been captivating. We've been newsmakers, even when they didn't like us, man. You can go way far back to the black boxer Jack Johnson. I mean, think about Muhammad Ali. You have not had more stars in America, more popular than black people, whether it's Muhammad Ali, whether it's Michael Jordan, whether it's Kobe, whether it's Jay-Z, whether it's Snoop Dogg, take your pick. These dudes are recognized worldwide, man. So at the end of the day, homie, motherfuckers is captivated with us. It is what it is.
Yeah, that's, you know what? That's 100% real. That's 100% real.
We talk about, homie, for motherfuckers who don't like us as much, man, our music sure is popular as hell, right? Let's go back to prison. You are likely to find another race bumping our music before you find us bumping another race's music. I've heard white boys playing rap. I've heard Mexicans playing rap. I've heard older Hispanics, Mexicans playing the oldies, all that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You won't, man, listen. You had to be dumb as hell to be in prison and order Tupac. Nigga, you could find Tupac damn near in every other cell. When I went to jail in 96, and when I left, Tupac was still the most played artist in prison in 2018. A dude by the name of Boo from Harlem 30s, he paroled, and this is probably about 2015, and he sold me all his CDs. He's had this dude, he told me about 50 CDs. This dude had a gang of Tupac. You still could hear Tupac being bumped in California prisons. Man, I went to prison maybe a year or two before Tupac got killed. And when I came out, Mexicans, whites, everybody was still bumping Tupac, man. So, I mean, you know, it just make sense, homie.
So, and even with that being said, excuse me, even with that being said, taking it into modern day, you'll watch a video of on any YouTube channel, any Instagram channel, watch a video of a fight with a bunch of Mexican kids. All you gonna hear is nigga, 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 nigga. You ain't gonna see not a nigga in the video. I'm looking for the niggas. Like, where the niggas at?
Hey, it's real talk. I have tripped on that myself, man. You know, so it's a trip. I mean, you know, you stop me when I start lying, but it seems like everybody wants to be us. Everybody, you know, they'll say they won't, but everybody wants to be us. Everybody is infatuated with a bit of our culture more than we are infatuated with their culture. I'm not saying every Mexican, every white dude wants to be black or emulate blacks, but you will find a greater percentage of those individuals emulating our culture than we will emulate theirs.
And I'll even say with that before, you know, I want to ask you about Gunner. And I'll say this, because I feel like more than not, most black people feel this way. And of course, you have the exceptions to the rule, because there are some racist ass black people. I don't personally subscribe to the concept that black people can't be racist. We can be racist as fuck. Black people can be racist as fuck. So we all got the ability to have a disdain towards somebody based off their color of skin, religion, creed, nationality, so forth, so on. We all that's a human flaw we all, you know, can't have the potential to possess. But when it comes to me being a black man, and again, stop me if you disagree, it's not that we even hate for anybody to love our culture, to emulate our culture, to want to be a part of our culture, to subscribe to our culture. Nigga, love me as much as you love my fucking culture.
Right.
How you hate me and love my culture?
Let me just give a quick breakdown of why, whether a person subscribes to that or believes it or not. Let me give a quick breakdown of why they say black people can't be racist. They say black people can be prejudiced. They say black people can't be racist because basically people who say that, they're saying that a racist is an individual who can affect your life, who can deny you access to a store, or who can deny you access to living or renting an apartment building, who can deny you a job or something like that. You know, basically they're saying that in order to be a racist, you have to be in a position of power. Now, you can be prejudiced. A black can have, you know, predetermined thoughts about somebody else, but he can't overwhelmingly affect somebody else's life with his racism. So that's just the theory on that, right? Whether individuals subscribe to that or subscribe to that, whether they do or they don't subscribe to that. But like I said earlier, I've seen many black people as, you know, who as hateful as toward Mexicans because of their experiences, right? We've all had sometimes negative experiences with each other, and at the end of the day, it's about how we let those experiences affect us, and then from there they will dictate how we feel or don't feel about other races. But what was you gonna say about old Gunner?
So just again asking about the real quick, my bad, because I got this thing I use. You ever use Chat GPT?
No.
So that's my personal assistant. Chat, y'all know what's going on. Check this out real quick. Chill. Trap GPT, you there?
I'm right here. What's up?
Can I ask you a quick question?
Of course. Ask away.
What's the difference between a racist and a systematic racist?
So the difference comes down to the scale and nature of the prejudice. A racist typically refers to an individual who holds prejudiced beliefs or engages in discriminatory actions against people based on their race. It's about personal attitudes or behaviors. A systematic racist, often referred to as systemic or institutional racism, involves broader systems, policies, or institutional practices that create or perpetuate racial inequality. It's not about individual intentions, but about how entire systems or structures disadvantage certain racial groups. So an individual racist might discriminate against someone because of their personal beliefs, while systemic racism means the entire framework of policies or practices in a society produces unequal outcomes for different racial groups.
So I would say, just again, my opinion, black people could be racist, but maybe not systematically racist.
Right.
But I just like to kick that little knowledge. That's the knowledge I can't get in college part of the show. But taking it back to Gunner, how does Gunner involve himself in a situation with Dubs outside of that being his partner and he's coming to the aid and defense of?
You know what?
And you know, from watching your videos, I found out about Gunner from you, and I enjoy Gunner's videos. I enjoy the stories and characters and all that kind of stuff. I like Gunner's videos. You feel me? But I'm looking at the situation like, how the fuck are you even involved in this, Gunner? How did you get here?
I'm a measure my words very, very carefully, right? Because Gunner, in my opinion, if you watch a lot of his videos, Gunner is the ultimate people pleaser. You know, even long before him and Dubs hooked up, Gunner would, he'll speak and he'll talk about blacks, but he does it in a way where he's not trying to offend anybody, which is cool. You know, he'll say, he'll give his point and then he'll come back and say, he'll make it clear that he's not being offensive or so on and so forth, right? So I respect that. He's not trying to offend anybody. But you have individuals, man, who say, I'm going to ride with my homie, right or wrong, right? I was always taught, I'm going to ride with my homie, right or wrong, but only when it gets physical. If he's wrong, if my homie is wrong and I'm condoning his bullshit, then I am potentially setting myself up for a downfall because I'm letting this, like, okay, me and you, Rich Trapper, we cool, right? Me and you, let's just say we going downtown to some type of Italian some type of Italian, this type of town, this area of the town that we're frequenting is like, it's Little Italy or whatever, right? It's predominantly Italian stores, shops, restaurants, so on and so forth. Every time we go down there, I'm looking around, I'm stealing. I'm throwing shit in my pocket. You like, hey, chill, man, cut that out, man, because if you get caught stealing, they gonna trip, and then we outnumbered, and it's gonna get ugly. Oh, Rich Trapper, you tripping, man. And so we go back down there, and I keep stealing, and eventually I get caught, and now I punch somebody, and 7, 8 motherfuckers jump on me. Now you punch somebody, and another 8, 9 motherfuckers jump on you, and we get the shit whooped out of us, right? If you had condoned my actions and that behavior, then you also was setting yourself up for that whooping, right? So a solid motherfucker would have done what you was doing from the gate. Hey, chill, stop stealing. You know what I'm saying? Stop stealing, because by me not allowing someone to hurt you, you also putting me in a position. You know what I'm saying? And then there's other people who care about me, my mom's kids, so on and so forth, right? And so he's one of those individuals, homie. A true friend is always gonna tell a dude the truth. Hey, man, stop that, homie, and here's why. Don't, like, if I'm gambling on my ass in prison, and you like, oh yeah, chill. Yeah, you over there chill at the gambling table with no money in your cell. No, a real friend is gonna tell me, chill, stop that shit, because it can get you hurt. And so, I've always been told that you don't condone your homie's bullshit. Now if me and you are just chilling, we good friends, and somebody come up and just punch you in the face because you done broke into their house and stole some of their shit, yeah, I'm a squab with you. But then later on, once I find out what happened, if you was wrong, then I got to decide what I'm going to do. Am I going to try to beat your ass? Or maybe am I going to cut ties with you? I'm not going to allow you to continually put myself in harm's way. You know what I'm saying? So there is the difference of ideology on that. You have some dudes who are going to support their homie regardless of what they do. And Gunner is one of those dudes. He has said that out of his own mouth, right? And so that's where, that's his thing. He, for whatever reason, because Dubs has a YouTube page just like he does. A lot of times Gunner, for whatever reason, will feel he has to make a video and come to the aid of whatever situation Dubs is in. And I don't really understand it. I ain't never had no grown male friend like that where I feel that I have to defend this dude.
You know what? I will say this to my own, because if you one of my viewers, you know certain things. You know, coming from I'm from the Crenshaw district. So will I come to defense of certain things publicly? No. But I'll just make the decision to purposely not speak about it on YouTube if you catch what I'm saying. You feel me?
Right, right.
And I think that I really like Gunner's. I really like his videos. So I don't even want to see like I'm talking bad about Gunner in no type of way. But in my personal opinion, that war could have been better fought not involving Gunner at all. You could have just not have said nothing and been about your business. Because when it comes down
Right.
to it, if we're looking at it for the aspects of right and wrong, trigger warning, but Dubs, you wrong, bro. Just it is what it is, bro. You're wrong, and your hypocrisy is showing because again, it goes into the moment of Dubs saying again out of his own mouth that he did, you know, hit the PC and all that, wooty bam and all that, blah blah blah. As far as what that means to your status and what that means to you as YouTubing and all that kind of stuff, myself personally, I don't think it means anything because if you was active, you would be dead and walking somebody's yard or in the field getting active, not on YouTube, able to talk to me or talk to whoever's watching. And, you know, I get that that could be a trigger towards your own ego, but bro, that's what you said. That's not what somebody put on you. Them was words out of your mouth.
That's real talk. And you see that once I put the video out where he admitted to me, and see in that video, man, I messed around and I accidentally edited something out that I wanted to put in. So in the video, when when on the phone, I tell Dubs, when Dubs asks me, well, yeah, what is my status? I tell him, well, I don't know. I wasn't there with you. I don't know 100%. But if I, but I definitely believe that you're not welcome among your people. And he said, I did go SNY. That part I accidentally edited out. But so the next part that I had in is, and then he went on to explain why he went SNY. So you're right.
He was a victim of bad politics.
This is no right, and this is no secret, homie. Gunner knows this. Do you think so? That was about the third or fourth conversation that I've ever had with Dubs. That was our first, somewhat, you can say, a contentious conversation, right? So, do you think that he would spill those beans to me in the third or fourth conversation and not tell Gunner? Gunner's known that shit. You know what I'm saying? So before I make a video about a straight lie, I just won't make the video.
And I'll even
why make a video about?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, but even just I was gonna say, even to your point, with Gunner being from the north and Dubs being from the south, unless Gunner, who is a self-admitted, in bad standings with his people, and Dubs, who has self-admitted is in bad standing with his people, how the fuck are y'all even friends online so publicly? It would only make sense if both of y'all was on the bad news list with y'all people. Because if y'all was both, even if one of y'all were just good, y'all couldn't be doing this shit.
Man, look, it for anybody that's in the know, it was plenty of signs out there, Never once did I ever think that Dubs was not in bad standings, right? It's just the level of maturity where I'm at today in my life, where I didn't bring that prison shit home with me anyway. I told cats, man, when I went to the board and they found me what they call suitable, was basically telling me I can take my black ass home. About 2 or 3 days later, I threw all that motherfucking paperwork in the trash. Who gives a fuck about who I stabbed or who I didn't stab or who I was fighting and what riots I've been in? You have a lot of individuals bring that shit home with you. That shit ain't fit to help you get no job. Now, it's some papers that I did bring home with me accidentally because I had I brought all my little rap books home and shit like that. And I looked in my rap book a couple days ago and I found some 115s or whatever, some shit that I've been in prison. But for the most part, I threw all that shit away. I bought my prison ID home and my do-rag. That's the only thing I brought home from prison outside of my pictures, just to remind me, man, I'm not trying to go back. And my do-rag because I wanted my ways. But outside of that, I passed away and threw all that shit away, man. So that shit has no bearing, right? But some people, sadly, they can't mature past that situation. So, and it's also a sad but true fact, or maybe it's not sad. It's just reality, man. Some people, for whatever reason, end up going PC and SNY, right? So, man, as long as the dude ain't no child molester or no rapist or whatever, man, I'm not tripping with a motherfucker on YouTube. This dude don't affect my life to that much where I'm just to let this dude, you know what I'm saying, dictate what I do or what I don't. So it only matters as much as we make it matter. And like you said, man, one thing, and let me just say this real quick. One thing I noticed too, like you said, that man, when you're doing YouTube, people will watch your video, but then they start to like you. If they do, it's something about your character. They may like that you're funny. They may like that you're witty, your wisdom, whatever. So admitting a certain status, he wasn't gonna lose no viewers anyway.
Period. Like, and because in all honesty, the most gangster motherfuckers is not watching YouTube. You getting judged by some kid sitting in his mama's basement in nowhere, Idaho.
Right.
Like, nobody really genuinely cares. And then I'll even say this, speaking again towards me watching, as far as being 35, watching my age group, but then more specifically the age group underneath me, I'm noticing a lot of unity, especially through the rap culture of Black and Brown. Like, I just watched, I'm finna trip you out. I just seen a Mexican Crip get into it with a Black Southsider.
Wow.
And they into it. They on YouTube talk, but they younger dudes, and we ain't gonna say the name. If y'all know, y'all know. If you don't, you don't. But yeah, and it gets to the point where you have the Black Southsider dissing the Mexican Crips hood, and then they going back and forth. But that's where we are in our game banging world and all that. And I'm not saying it's for the most positive reasons, but that is a show of, Blacks and Browns being able to unite and being able to cross platforms with one another in this new generation that we got going on. Because I'm sure when you was growing up, to even see a Mexican Crip and a Black Southsider arguing, you would be like, what the fuck is going on with this shit?
Right.
So, I mean,
well,
go ahead.
When I left prison in 2018, man, and this was on CMC West, General Population Yard, after the hostility to end, the agreement to end all hostilities act was kicked in, and everybody got released from the SHU. Man, everybody was playing basketball together. You had Northerners, Southerners, and Blacks playing basketball involved in a tournament. Now, of course, there were some rumblings. You heard had Blacks and some Mexicans on the side, in the building, said, "Oh man, I'm not just to do that. I'm not participating." But I mean, once the word came down, like you say, from up top, it was what it was, and you had dudes go out there and participate. You know what I'm saying? So, at the end of the day, man, a real basketball player, regardless of what race, is gonna want to play against the best. You had some Mexicans on the yard who had some nice games. You had some Northerners on the yard who had some nice games. You had some brothers who had some nice basketball games. They all want to play against each other. They want to see what it's like, Right, and that's what they got out there and did. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I keep saying this shit is only important as we make it.
And that's very true. And again, I just want to stress, coming again from the perspective of a Black man, but just somebody on YouTube, I say this to all YouTubers, whether you speak about gangs, whether you speak about prison politics, the moment you upload your video to YouTube, that motherfucker's up for grabs. I can say what I want to say, and I'm going to say what I want to say. And it could be the whole concept of, well, you shouldn't speak on it for this. You shouldn't speak on it. If this subject was so near and dear to your heart, if you are so high power about this subject, if you feel like only you and a certain group of people should be able to speak about this video, make the video, put that motherfucker on unlisted, and then share the link with the people who you want to see it. And then that way you have your own little community. But the moment that shit say public because you want to reap the benefits of the monetization and you see that little $ turn green, oh yeah, my nigga, we gonna get on your shit. And it is what it is. And, because from my platform, I don't publicly associate with gangs and all that. I won't tie myself publicly to nothing as far as that's concerned, YouTube-wise. But I also want to say this, too, as you've seen, well, when you put it, just because somebody's not publicly associated with a certain thing doesn't mean that they don't have knowledge of the situation. They just choose to go about it in a less get your ass locked up in a RICO type of way.
Right. But let me. I want to make 2 points real quick. Let me say this real fast. What's so crazy, right, is what you just said. And even after we see, the big U thing, and I don't think people make the connection. The last time I mentioned this is, you still have individuals online threatening each other. So I wasn't trying to say that you can get caught up in big U's indictment. What I'm saying is, people are not wise enough to really. Don't you see all that shit they just used on Big U and Loose Cannon about making threatening videos, and people are still, these so-called gangsters are still doing that shit, man. You can't, they gon' when when the laws come, they're going to use every bit of evidence they can, man. So to me, that's just crazy to get on YouTube. If you didn't know before, now you see it, and individuals still doing that shit. And second point I wanted to make, Dubs, I seen a video, right, where Dubs said basically exactly what you said himself, man. Once you upload something to YouTube, it is it's for everybody, either enjoyment, everybody's has the right to react to it, so on and so forth, right? And so that was really the reason I put up. It was a video of Dubs and them arguing, Dubs Gunner arguing with L from A Prisoner's Awakening.
Yeah.
And I was debating on whether or not to put the video up. I was in Vegas, and I really just wanted to put up something quick. I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time with editing this and that. So I said, well, fuck it. I was on the fence about that. And then just so happened, it was like God's head. Nigga, do the video, nigga. A video popped up of Dubs saying, oh, when somebody puts something up on YouTube, it's for everybody's whatever. And I said, oh, man, okay, I'm on that shit then. And I put the video up. And now that I think about it, I think that's initially what also kind of got him upset, because he left a comment on my comment, and he had my number at the time. So, I mean, if you want to text me, text me. But so he left a comment. It's funny something about how people putting this video up but don't have they're not putting up the full video. Well, nigga, I put up whatever you gave us. You know what I'm saying? So It's crazy. Like, that would be like me and you, Rich Trapper. All of a sudden we go to arguing, calling each other out our names, and then you upload the video, and then me and you get mad at people reacting to it. We gave the people this content.
The moment you hit, you know what it is? The people, again, everybody want to see the dollar sign turn green, but nobody wants to account for the people in the comments who don't have nothing else to do but troll. And that's what they're going to do no matter what. Because I'm sure you've seen it on your page, other people's pages. It's some people to where, like, for example, me and you get into an argument. We make peace. Oh, they two B's for making peace. Me and you get into a fight. Oh, they stupid for getting into a fight. There's no winning.
Right.
You damned if you do and you damned if you don't. I do want to ask you one more question before we get out of here. If anybody in the chat has any questions y'all want to ask, now's the time to drop them. We will go ahead and start asking them questions if y'all got any. If not, don't worry about it. How do you feel to the sentiments when taking it back to the Tory Lanez? How do you feel about the sentiments of, well, the dude was no good on a PC yard, so it shouldn't matter that he was Mexican? My logic is, I was always taught, unless you want to shake this whole jail off, don't put your hands on another race. Unless you're ready to shake this whole jail off, don't let no other race put their hands on you. You handle your own.
Well, okay, so I'll say this, right? To me, it all depends on the attitude and the ideology and the protocol of that prison. If everybody is on mano y mano time, basically meaning each man for himself, and a black and a Mexican get into it, and then everybody else is going to stand by and let that happen, then okay, it is what it is, right? When in Rome, do as the Romans do. But during that phone call from the dude who alleged was an eyewitness, he said that once the dude started stabbing Tory Lanez, a black dude was going to act like he was gonna get up to go help, and he said, hey man, don't do that, because then all the Mexicans are going to jump in and it's bad for you. So his words implied that they are still riding for their people. And then, like I said, up in there, you have different...
Can you repeat that last part one more time?
So during the phone call, when the dude called in, I forget what he said his name was or whatever, Ephraim Byers or whatever, he called in giving what he claimed was an eyewitness account of the stabbing of Tory Lanez. And so he said that while one dude, while he was stabbing him, it was a black dude who acted like he was going to get up. And then he told him, hey, bro, you better sit back down, because if you do, all the Mexicans are going to get involved and it's going to be bad for you.
So a black dude watched this happen and didn't do nothing.
According to this dude who made the phone call, right? He was there and dude was getting stabbed. Now, people have already said that for whatever reason, Tory Lanez is in a building predominantly full of Mexican dudes, right? And so if that is the case, then to me, he was tripping, because prison is still prison, right? Regardless, some people too concerned with what other people think or being scared or whatever. When you are in an environment where violence can break out spontaneously at any given moment and things will get racial, you want to be with your folks. You
Yeah.
want to be with your people. You don't want to be in a building where it's 5 blacks and 35 of anything outside of black, because if it goes racial, then you have to get involved, right? So you could be in building 2, right? You could be in building 2 and it's 5 blacks and let's just say, let's just take the Mexicans out of the equation for a minute. Let's just say it's 5 blacks and 30 whites. You look out the window, a black dude and a white dude is fighting. Now, you've been in this building 2 years. You and all these white dudes are cool. These white dudes are still going to put their foot in your ass.
And you better take off
Because
first.
if they not, they're going to get in trouble. So why would you be sitting in this building knowing that something could break out at any given moment? So, that was Tory Lanez is bad for not respecting the element that was around him. You definitely always have to put yourself in the best position. I'm gonna keep it 100 with y'all, right? When I was locked up, I didn't go in the cell with nobody I didn't think I could whoop. What the fuck? I'm gonna be in a cell phone with a nigga that's 6'8" and 295 pounds and lifting everything on the weight pal. That would be crazy for me. If I didn't think I had a chance at whooping your ass, nigga, we gonna kick it on the yard, nigga. Fuck being sellies.
Yeah, no, I mean, because it's we laughing, but your life is on the line. Yes, you have
Real
to think.
talk, man.
You can't think with your pride and your ego. You need to think with your life on the line, my guy.
Man, and Chances used to say all the time, man. What was I gonna say that Chances used to say? Man, I forgot. I was gonna say. Oh yeah, that's right. Chances used to say all the time, you only got one life.
Yeah, you can't play with it.
Yeah, and that's what he used to say. I don't play with my life. I only got one life. So, when you respect what's going on around you, you will think a little more wisely. But let me real quick. I had a homie, right, when I was on the streets. He was the first one to, where I live, it's a lot of fields. He was the first one that showed me how to creep through fields and pop on people and shit like that. Once he showed me that, I stopped hanging out. I said, it's too easy to get a motherfucker. You go through a field and dudes is hanging. Man, we sitting in the bushes, literally 5 feet away, listening to niggas giggle and laugh and talk about fucking bitches. Because I was looking for a certain person, right? So
hold on,
once
real
he
quick,
showed
Chill.
me that.
Hold on, Chill. For those of y'all who don't know, Chill is from Banning, California. So it's a lot of people from LA in here. They're gonna be like, Phil, where the hell was he at with a field? He not from LA. He from Banning.
Yeah, it's a lot of. They call it the desert. It's a lot of desert down there, right?
Yeah, Riverside County.
Especially back in 86, 87, 80, all, so, when I seen how easy it was to get somebody, I stopped hanging out because it's scary when because nobody is above being, nobody is above being caught slipping. And so, at the end of the day, man, you have to respect the dangerous elements that you're around, whether you're on the streets, whether you're in prison, wherever you are, where things can get dangerous.
Yeah. And you have to respect the brutality of where you are.
And especially a place like prison, right? So, but so I got away from what I was saying. So when the eyewitness to this alleged, this alleged eyewitness, when he said he told the black dude, sit down, because if you jump up, all the Mexicans are going to jump up. So he's basically already saying that in that prison, they're still politicking along racial lines.
Right. So again, with that still being politics on racial lines, do you think that the blacks will strike back? I'm sure they're on a lockdown or something like that, but when them gates open, you think it's going up?
Hell no. Listen, they already said 2 or 3 days ago that they have them dudes is back on normal program. They program and this and that, right? So, and that's my thing, right? A lot of people don't like when an individual potentially comes, out and he airs what's supposed to be the wrongs of the structures with the blacks, right? And that's the problem sometimes. But sometimes if you keep sweeping shit up under the rug, it's gonna stay up under the rug.
Yeah.
The problem is not gonna be fixed if it don't get addressed, man. And sometimes brothers need better unity, man. Brothers need to stop fighting among each other and defend themselves against whoever attacks them in prison. You have a lot of people who want to take this outside and try to make it seem like I'm calling for racial division among blacks and Mexicans. No, that's not what I'm doing, right? But in prison, when certain rules are lived by, whether it's a PC prison, whatever type of prison it is, right? Because at the end of the day, man, if somebody's attacking you and you don't attack back, then you're at the mercy of that person's will. You know, that person can come outside of the cell anytime he feels like and stab you for whatever reason if there are no policies that's put in place to prevent this shit. Okay, so the policies that's put in place, it should be man-to-man discussion. You know, we can talk this stuff out with diplomacy, but when diplomacy fails, the white man will tell you that war kicks in then.
Yeah.
All you got to do is look at the history of United States. The United States is they gonna try to bully, they gonna try to take over, they gonna try to impose their will on Vietnam, Falcon Islands, all these other places. You know what I'm saying? The American Indians, all this type of shit. You know what I'm saying? So
burning down and flooding
you know, at
black
some
cities,
time,
all that.
Man, it's a sad fact, but at certain times, man, violence has to be put into effect to show that people that man, we're not this to just go for any and everything, right? And so that's what's going on in prison. You know, people get all upset, but prison is a place, man, where you have the worst of the worst.
And somebody's there for being violent. And typically the person who's in control of their faction, you know, whether it be black, white, Mexican, blood, Crip, whatever, 9 times out of 10, if that person's in control, that nigga's in there for being violent, typically speaking.
100% facts, man. You know, the most intelligent, now, a person in charge of a car or collective, he can have a bit of intelligence due to being in prison so long and knowing how things go, but he's also a violent motherfucker. You know, you can't lead. You cannot. Yeah, you can't lead people for too long, encouraging people to do something that you're not gonna do, right? So eventually, once it comes out that this nigga's faking and shaking, you can't be the leader. Yeah. So in order to lead violent men, you have to be violent.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. Man, chat, if there's anything that y'all want to ask, you know, we're going to let Chill be about his day. Chill, is there anything that you want to leave us with? I do want to ask this because there's so much back and forth, and, you know, people will only hear, we both know how this YouTube shit work. It's somebody who won't hear the first 5 minutes of this conversation, watch the whole thing, but not hear nothing past the first 5 minutes. So do you have any final thoughts or any final opinions or any just final views about this whole conversation in totality so it could be the last thing that the people hear versus everything that we've been talking about?
No, not really right. But you just said something that's really my pet peeve, homie. People will, I notice people will look at YouTube, but they don't listen. You know, sometimes they might be driving, sometimes they might be talking to their homeboy or whatever, and they'll pick out a small little section and leave a stupid ass comment that lets me know that you didn't even watch the video.
Or even worse, when they be like, oh, you clickbait the title. If you would just watch the video and just listen to the video, the title will make sense and reference too. But
right. And so, yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head right there, man. You know, people are gonna pull from the video what they want to pull, or sometimes, you know, not trying to be disrespectful, what the little bit of intelligence they have will allow them to pull. You know what I'm saying? And so, I mean, if YouTube's gonna do YouTube, no, you know, we can sit here and talk ourselves, you know, till we turn blue in the face, but people still gonna, you know, pull what they pull.
Right. That's true. Man, well, Chill, we appreciate you. And real quick before you go, Backdoor Media's in here. Backdoor Media is actually who linked us up, man. So big love, big appreciation to Backdoor Media. Much love for sure.
Backdoor Media, what's going on, man? Hey, what's up with you? How you doing? Hey, Backdoor Media, man, you shot me a video one time, man, and that shit had some corrupted files or some shit on it, man, I think, and I tried to upload it to my computer, and, man, it had me, you know what I'm saying? I didn't know what was going on, man. So, yeah, hey, what's up, though? How you doing, man? But, hey, I appreciate you putting me in touch with Rich Trapper. I've been checking out your content for a while, actually, so, you know, once again, shout out to you, man. Shout out for this good conversation. Shout out to Backdoor Media.
Chill, we got a question in the chat. Before we get to the question, Rich Trapper signing out, TNN Trap News Network. Rich Trapper signing out. We get out of here to the next one. We gone.